My parents kicked me out on my 18th birthday, not with a party, not with a cake, but with 2 suitcases packed on the front porch. The door slammed shut, the lock clicked, and just like that. I was homeless, my crime. I wasn't the daughter they had meticulously planned for. I had my own dreams, my own path, and that path didn't lead to the prestigious law school they picked out for me before I could even walk. We didn't raise a disappointment, my father's voice echoed through the thick oak door. My mother just stood behind him, her face a mask of cold indifference. It hurt. More than I could ever admit. As I sat on the curb, the streetlights flickering on one by one, a burning anger started to replace the tears. They talked about disappointment, about reputation. They had built their entire lives on a foundation of perfection. They were the pillars of our small town, the couple everyone admired. Mr. and Mrs. Harrison, who ran the town's most successful charity, the Harrison Foundation for Family Unity. The irony was so thick I could taste it. Family unity, right? I spent the first night at my friend Sarah's house. Numb and confused, the next few weeks were a blur of crashing on couches and picking up odd jobs. But every time I saw my parents' smiling faces in the local paper, cutting a ribbon for another community project, that anger boiled over again. They were living their perfect life while their own daughter was barely scraping by. They had erased me. And for what? For daring to be myself. One night, scrolling through old family photos on my phone, I stumbled upon something I'd forgotten. A locked folder my dad had created years ago, labeled Archive. I still remembered the password. It was Legacy. Of course it was. Curiosity got the better of me. I opened it. And my world tilted on its axis. It wasn't just old tax documents or vacation pictures. It was a completely different life. A life before me. There were photos of my parents, younger, standing in front of a small, rundown house. But they weren't alone. There was a boy. A little boy with my father's eyes and my mother's smile, clinging to her hand. He was in every photo for about 5 years, and then he was gone. His name was Leo. And he was my brother. A brother I never knew I had. I dug deeper, my hands shaking. There were scanned documents, adoption papers, but they weren't for me. They were for Leo. And then the final, gut-wrenching document, a relinquishment of parental rights. They had given him up. They had a son, their firstborn, and when times got tough, when their perfect image was at stake because they were young and struggling, they gave him away. They erased him from their lives just like they were trying to erase me. The Harrison Foundation for Family Unity. It was all a lie. A grand performance to atone for a sin they buried so deep they probably convinced themselves it never happened. They weren't helping families because they were saints. They were doing it to silence their own guilt, to build a fortress of respectability around their shameful secret. They kicked me out for not fitting into their perfect picture, but their entire picture was a fraud. I now had a choice. I could keep this to myself, let them continue their charade. Or I could expose them. Was this revenge? Maybe, but it felt more like justice. Justice for me and justice for the brother I never got to meet. The anger I felt wasn't just for me anymore. It was for him, for Leo. The original disappointment they had cast aside. I didn't storm into their charity gala or scream at them in the street. That wasn't my style. I did something much quieter and much more devastating. I found an investigative journalist at the state's largest newspaper, someone known for digging into uncomfortable truths. I gave him everything. The photos, the documents, the whole story. I didn't ask for money. I only asked that he find Leo, that he tell him the truth. The story broke a week later. The front page headline was explosive. Harrison Foundation founders hidden past. The son they gave away. Our town was in shock. The perfect couple. The paragons of family values. Were frauds, their empire of lies came crashing down. Donors pulled their funding. Friends turned their backs. The foundation collapsed within a month. My parents became social outcasts, trapped in the perfect house that now felt like a prison. They tried to reach out to me, leaving voicemails filled with rage, then desperation. Then hollow apologies. I never answered. A few months passed. Life was still hard. But it was mine. I had a small apartment and was taking online courses for graphic design. My real passion. One afternoon, there was a knock on my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened it to find a man standing there, a little older than me, with kind eyes that looked so familiar. My father's eyes. He held out a hand, a hesitant smile on his face. "You must be my sister," he said. "I'm Leo." It turned out he had a good life. His adoptive parents were wonderful people who had loved him unconditionally. He wasn't angry, just curious. He wanted to meet the sister who had brought the truth to light. We talked for hours, sharing stories, filling in the blank spaces of each other's lives. We talked about our parents, not with hatred, but with a strange, sad understanding. They weren't monsters, just flawed. Weak people who made a terrible choice out of fear and ambition. By exposing their secret, I thought I was seeking revenge. But what I found was something better. I found a brother. I found a family that wasn't built on lies or expectations. My parents tried to erase their children to protect their legacy. But in the end, their true legacy wasn't the foundation or the money. It was the two of us, finding each other in the ruins of their perfect world. And for the first time, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be.